I'm really excited to share with you an example on how our partnership and outreach efforts have benefited, say, the County of Education throughout the state of California. The screen before you illustrates an amazing outreach that was taken place by our business rules team over the last fiscal year. We had the 2018 and 2019, and we're calling out all the different locations that we visited and the number of attendees. And as you can see with business rules, there's a flexibility of how many people we can offer education at one time, where you'll see maybe in the CalPERS program, it's a little bit different, and I'll cover that in just a moment. But the grand total, 425 individual employees that represent your agency were educated, and this is on top of our regular training schedule. And maybe one of your agencies is on this list, so I hope you benefited from that, definitely. Next is behind the wheel training, we call it. So you learn the rules of the road with the business rules, and then with the CalPERS system training, you're learning in how to process transactions within the system. A little bit about CalPERS system training is that this is an instructor-led experience. Typically, they're held at our regional offices and our computer labs. And so if we were to go to an employer location, of course, for this particular training, we would need a computer lab to be able to accommodate that education for you. Our student guides are amazing, and they're on our website, and there are step actions that provide to you how to process transactions within the system. What's really good about these student guides, they were recently designed, and they're designed to really give you simple and clear information quick. It starts with the scenario description. So for example, if you needed to know how to add a new retire enrollment, we have that itemized for you. We also provide system logic, and what this is, it's a guide of the parameters of what you need to consider as you're processing this transaction. So instead of calling it business rules, it's like system rules. And then also we have step actions along with screenshots to help illustrate that process for learning purposes. Now, on our website, we have 17 student guides that are available. But when you drill down to what courses that we offer when we go to different regional offices, it's representing our main lines of business, such as retirement, payroll adjustments, and Cognos reports. But of course, if there's something there that you want more information on and us to teach you, please let us know. Our online classes, online classes in general, I would say are the way of the future, and that's where we're going. Online classes offers what I consider more of a hybrid platform where you can access both business rules and CalPERS system training in a centralized area. And what's great, it's available 24/7. I'm really excited to share that recently our education center had some enhancements to it, and when it comes to accessing your online modules, you can do that with a one-click option. It really eliminated the pre-work of registering for the module, finding it. Now it's more ready for you to select it and just move forward. I'm excited to also share that currently we have 67 online modules that are available for your viewing. And some of the two classes I want to recognize that have been recently added was the projected contributions. I'm sure we're all aware of that one. We also have a student guide that's dedicated to that particular function too. And then a recent module that was created was for the out-of-class reporting, and we do have a student guide for that as well. All right. Some of the resources that are available to you are on our website. The employer education schedule is on our website, and it's going to itemize what's available for business rules and for CalPERS. May I ask by a show of hands, has anybody gone into the education center on the CalPERS? Okay, so in that, we upload all of our classes in there. And when you log into there, it's going to be intuitive to your regional office. It's going to let you know what we have available and when and times. And so that is a great place to go to other than the schedule itself. Also on our website, we have an employer education resource document. And what I really like about this document, if you didn't take any notes of what I said today, in this document, it itemizes exactly our program. You know, what services do we have to offer? What is business rules? What is health business rules? What is my CalPERS system training? And what is online classes? And within this document, it has this really convenient links that will take you to our resources related to that particular topic. So I really, really enjoy that. The CalPERS employer bulletins are very important, I believe, when it comes to our particular program. Every month we are participating, or my program is participating in this communication outreach. And what we're sharing is we're taking account of what new enhancements have come down the pipe in the last month that we are incorporating into our training materials or we're showcasing in our classes. So we're marketing that information, and I'm looking at that content to make sure I'm getting that message out to you. So please take a look at that to hear what's coming down the pipeline. Also, circular letters is something that we consider when we are working with our training materials. We want to make sure that we're referencing the right laws and the right letters with those books. Circular letters are referenced within our guides. And the employer news. Employer news is a great area to learn what's new. The employer education program had the opportunity to submit an article for the fall. And just a little peek, we're talking about the foundation of accurately reporting your appointment. And so, and that being the structure of a house, building your house, making sure the appointment is your solid foundation so that you can then construct your payroll and your health appointments appropriately, because sometimes if the foundation is not strong, it's not until 5, 10, 20 years that you guys are finding out, and then we have to go back and correct it. Now we're here to help you correct that. But we want to come from a proactive versus a reactive perspective, and I think we all can agree on that. But most importantly, what I want to share with you today is that although our schedule is published, but if there's something that you need us for in a special training request that's outside and we can accommodate by consolidating our resources if we're going to be out in that location at that time, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Our email is right there. It's CalPERS_communications with an S at calpers.ca.gov. I also brought my business cards if you want some. And then also, yes. So with that being said, I want to take any questions that you may have. And then Vina, maybe you can attest to of how it works for you with us helping you when you need us.
We had a very good presentation from PERS.
Yes.
And it went very well. We want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I also have a request based on that.
Fresh off the press request. That's what I really like, right?
I mean, you know how right now we have once a year PERS masters come to our location to do the presentation. But
Are you talking about the presentation that we had just a few months ago, that
Yes.
annual presentation for all your districts, and you have
Right.
the business rules and my CalPERS go and give okay?
Right. And
Wanna clarify?
my request is like you come every quarter to Orange County. Am I right? Every quarter?
Every quarter?
Okay. So we do have a lab. We can accommodate around 32, I think, people in our lab. And I'm hoping if we can team up with your office, when you come to Orange County, we can schedule a couple of hours at Orange County location, because lots of our districts, they won't go to PERS building, in Anaheim, but they are so used to coming to our office. So we can use our lab, but then we will have a suggestion for you. For example, HR people, how to fill the certification form, or reciprocity form, right of election form, like that, things that they need when they hire people. Do you think it's possible to have every quarter?
I think it's possible for us to do some research to see if that's possible. Absolutely. I will definitely inquire. I think that, and how we've worked together in the past is that you've requested us and we do a needs assessment. So should it go for yearly or quarterly, the process would remain the same, that you'd reach out to us, we will do a needs assessment to see what is it you need at that time, and then we'll take that back and we'll work with the CalPERS program areas to make sure we're covering all the points and then sharing that with you so that, we are targeting our communication based on what you need. But I think it's a great suggestion. I think that you're getting more bang for your buck by you hosting it at your location, so I thank you for that. And I thank you for sharing that you have a lab of 32, so that expands from our normal 12 at a regional office to a bigger audience. So I will take that
But
back.
we don't want to be doing that for everybody.
No, for your district.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, it wasn't a free open invitation? No.
I'm just
But
kidding.
piggybacking on Venus, proposal, I encourage all of you to let me know if that's something you're interested in, hosting something at your location for your districts, and we can come to you, and then us working with you in terms of a needs assessment so that, whatever Vina might need may not be what you need. So we, again, want to make sure we're getting that targeted communication to you. We bring all of our training materials as well. Our training materials are on our website. So we value our partnership, Vina. I'm glad to know that you think that it's worth the time for us to go down there and you're sharing that testimony. Thank you so much. Are any other questions or any requests? No. Okay.
Hi, just real quick. Hi, Vina. How are you?
Oh,
Just adding on to what you said, I'll actually be in Orange County again, doing training for school employers at the Orange Regional Office on December 3rd. It's a little too early, so I haven't started marketing to that area yet. But before we actually get a plan to accommodate what you're asking, I encourage you to have your staff come to the training on December 3rd. But I'll send emails out as we get a little closer to that date.
thank you, Antoine. Yes, a representative from our business rules. Some of you might have recognized Antoine, so thank you for that additional feedback there. All right. Is there any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much, and I will follow up. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have our Social Security. But before we do that, I would like to pose a question to the group. We are going through our 2020 schedule for the SEAC meetings. CalPERS and CalSTRS work together to come up with the dates. And November 2020 is going to be a very difficult month. We normally have them on Wednesdays, and we have to accommodate the CalPERS board, the CalSTRS board meetings, and the only day that is basically open is Tuesday, November 10th. Now that's a Tuesday, and the very next day is Veterans Day. Would that be a problem for you guys? Or would it be better if we canceled that meeting? Now remember, a lot of the information that you would receive from CalPERS at the November meeting will be a repeat of what was given at the Ed Forum. Thoughts, comments? Okay, so nod heads. Keep it, the meeting for November 10th, or cancel it?
Don't cancel it. You need a show of hands, I think.
Okay. I think we have consensus there. All right, Jennifer, Social Security. And I would like we have two speakers. We have two speakers that are calling in.
I think they have to unmute the line for them. Okay. It's unmuted. So Paul and Cheryl, are you there?
Hi, yes, this is Cheryl. I'm here.
Hi, Cheryl.
I'm here too.
All right, wonderful. So we can get started. So hello, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jennifer Rocco. I'm an assistant chief in the Employer Account Management Division One of the programs that I oversee is our state Social Security Administrator program. Up front with me, I have Veronica Silva-Gill, who is a team leader over that program. And then we have two folks joining us on the line. So Paul Saccolari is from the Social Security Administration in the Office of the General Counsel, and Cheryl Barella works for the Internal Revenue Service in the federal, state, and local governments area. So welcome, Paul and Cheryl. Thank you. So today, let me get my slides caught up. We have three topics to discuss. So the first is Social Security coverage. So this will be a little bit of a repeat of what we discussed at the last SEAC, but we have Paul here today just to assist with any questions that you might have. We're going to talk about corrections. So Cheryl's here to assist with any questions on that. And then finally, we'll let Paul and Cheryl go, and we're going to talk about State Social Security Administrator program funding. All right, so here we go. Social Security coverage. So like I said, some of this is a little bit of a recap of what I went over at the last SEAC, but we do have some additional information that we provided. So is this in their folder? So in your folder, I'm going to be going over this handout. It says types of Social Security coverage. So this is some more specific guidance around retired annuitant coverage, and I'll walk through that with you, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. So last time we talked about 218 agreement coverage, and that the 218 agreements cover positions, not individuals. So when we're looking to determine if a classified employee is covered by Social Security, we're looking to the 218 agreement and modification 315, which covers all school districts in the state. There are all classified positions are covered by that modification, and there's no exclusions. So no exclusions for example, for part-time employees. For the county offices, it is a little bit different in that they may have a 218 agreement. So if you have a question about whether or not your COE has a 218 agreement, I have a cheat sheet here, so just let me know. So who's covered? If anyone is hired into a position that's covered under that 218 agreement, so if they're a classified employee, then the individual is covered for Social Security. If they're excluded under a 218 agreement, then we look to mandatory law. But when it comes to classified school employees, there are no exclusions. So we're always going to look to the 218 agreement, which is going to tell us that those positions should be covered, which means that Social Security should be withheld. So this applies as well for retired annuitants who are serving in a position that's covered by the 218 agreement. So if you're bringing them back to do work that other folks are doing at a district, it's the same position, the same type of job duties or similar job duties. Retired annuitants should be brought in just as you would any other classified employee that's working in a similar position. So I want to point to this handout. So this, we've worked with the Social Security Administration and the IRS to develop this guidance. So this is specific to retired annuitants because we have, and it's specific to schools as well. So this kind of just recaps what I went through, but the first thing we look to is what type of Social Security coverage there is. So the voluntary coverage is what I spoke about where there's a 218 agreement in place. So for all classified employees, they're covered by Mod 315. For county offices of education, since they came independent in 1979, they were not covered under that modification. So some county offices have elected to have their own 218 agreement and some haven't. So if they do have a 218 agreement in place, the positions, classified positions would be covered under that agreement. And then if a 218 agreement is not in place, we would look to mandatory law. And then finally, for Medicare, anyone hired or rehired after April 1st of 1986 is subject to mandatory Medicare taxes. So on the handout, we have provided some common scenarios for the schools. So since we have a little bit of time, I think we could probably walk through a few of these and just see if there are any questions from the group, especially since we have our expert on the line waiting. So the first common scenario, a classified employee of a school district retired from CalPERS and is reemployed in a temporary classified position by the same school district. It says, so since this individual was reemployed by the school district, they have the same retirement system, they're covered under that 218 agreement, they would contribute to Social Security, and then they would also have their mandatory Medicare withholdings. Even though they may not be contributing to PERS, they're deemed a member under the federal rules, and so they should be considered, they should be contributing to Social Security. The next scenario is the same, except for that they went back to a school district in a different county, and it's the same answers. And that's really because all of these classified school employees are covered under the same modification 315. So if they're employed in a classified position, they should be contributing to Social Security. The third example, it says a city employee retired from CalPERS and is employed in a temporary classified position at a school district subject to CalPERS. So same thing though, they're considered to be a member of the retirement system and they should be withholding Social Security. And again, regardless of the position, if it's a regular position or if it's a retired annuitant position, the same review applies. So there's a few more examples, but before I go on, I know I've shared quite a bit of information. So do you have questions for myself or Social Security? I think we have see a couple hands, so Vina just needs to keep a mic.
I just wanted to make sure I verify, even though in the example, I know you covered it, but I want to apply it to our county.
Sure.
So our county, Orange County, is not under Section 218 agreement, and our school districts are. So if a retiree is hired in any ABC school district, they will pay Social Security. But if they came to county office, they won't.
Yes, you are correct. So the districts are covered under Mod 315, but the COE is not. So if they're employed at the district, they would be covered. If they're employed at your COE, they likely wouldn't be, but we would look to the mandatory law, which is the second example on that handout.
Okay. And my second question is, are you going to cover about the overtime when they work overtime position, about Social Security?
Not today. I think we're still working on that guidance.
Okay.
I see Veronica shaking her head
thank
no.
you.
One thing. It's in the back? Yeah. Hi.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
I'm going to take my time. So I have a CalPERS retiree that retired from a classified position. We've hired them in a temporary part-time position as a CalPERS retiree. Because they retired from a retirement system, CalPERS, they're no longer a CalPERS member, they're a retiree.
So under the state law, they're no longer a CalPERS member. Under federal law, they are. So we have to look to the federal definition.
So under the Social Security online website, I pulled last night a page from there. Basic coverage rules, it says if the annuitant is rehired by the same employer or hired by another employer who maintains the same retirement system, the annuitant is exempt from mandatory Social Security coverage, right?
Exempt from mandatory, not from voluntary, because there's a 218 agreement in place.
Right.
Their position is covered under the 218 agreement. So voluntary coverage
But if
and
they're-
mandatory coverage are two different things.
How is the part-time position covered under, because it's not a CalPERS position if it's part-time?
It's not, we looked, so we looked to federal law, and we looked to the 218 agreement, which says that all classified positions should be contributing to Social Security. We don't look to the CalPERS membership piece. So the federal law says that they should be contributing. And Paul, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I'd like to know where in that law it states that, because I could not find that last night.
So this is Paul. I think there's a couple of things that are important to keep track of, and I think, as you mentioned earlier, the idea of mandatory versus voluntary Social Security coverage, those words are terms of art, and so it's easy to get tripped up because you may think of them in their normal usage. But for legal purposes, mandatory and voluntary are two separate things. And the other thing to keep in mind that I think was mentioned earlier is that coverage, 218 coverage, covers positions and not individuals. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of stuff, it's very easy to get tripped up when you're looking at a specific person and saying this person is not a member of PERS, but if you look at the position, if the position could have been covered under PERS, then it's going to be a covered position under the 218 agreement.
But
so that's how we look at it. We don't look at it, Social Security doesn't look at it as this person is a retiree and they're no longer a part of PERS. We look at it with the position could have been covered or would have been covered if the person was not a retiree, then we consider that covered under the 218 agreement.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you said the position could have been. What do you mean by could have been? Because it was a part-time position that I brought up, and those are not covered under CalPERS.
Under the 218 agreement, we have to look at each 218 agreement, but under, I think, 315 modification, there are no exclusions, so
Right.
part-time position is covered.
Yes. All classified positions, regardless of time-based, are all covered under the 218 agreement. Yeah, I think, yeah, and I think that's part of it too, is it's different because it's the federal law and the federal definitions that apply, and it's truly, we're so used to looking at the individual and their service history to figure out, it's really not relevant when you're looking at Social Security coverage. It's all about what position are they in, what are the job duties that they're performing, and whether or not that position's covered by the 218 agreement. I think we're going to move on to the next question, but we can come back. I see her reading. She's very focused, so go ahead.
So I just want to clarify, kind of tagging on to Vina's, is that we're a county office as well, but we do have a 218 agreement. Mm-hmm. So we're not covered under that modification 315, but because we have our own 218 mm-hmm. agreement, then a person retiring from one of our school districts and coming to then work at the county office as a retiree, you're saying would be subject to the Social Security.
So I don't know the details of your county's 218 agreement and whether or not you have any exclusions. So that would be something we would want to take your question offline and do some research to see what your specific 218 agreement says, because it could be different from Mod 315. So that's the other thing to keep in mind is, these are kind of a case-by-case basis. So while we've tried to provide some common scenarios depending on the county's 218 agreement and what's included in that, our answer might change. So that's why we would encourage you to reach out to us, let us work with Social Security to give you an answer. But we can look at your county's 218
Okay.
agreement and
If,
give you some
assuming,
feedback.
say I believe there are no exclusions, but assuming there were no exclusions where all positions were covered,
Then they would contribute to
Then they
Social
would contribute.
Security, yes.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Were there other hands? I think, good, Bina and Sheila. She's closer.
Sheila Walker, Tama County Department of Ed. We have certificated people that have chosen PERS as their retirement. Okay, so they retire from PERS, but they're actually doing a certificated. So they can only come back and do a classified in a couple ways. So because if they're doing a certificated position, it doesn't come under
Correct.
this here.
Certificated employees are not covered under any 218 agreement.
Okay.
It's classified. So your teachers wouldn't be contributing.
So if they've retired from PERS,
And they come back to do certificated work,
they
wouldn't.
can't. Yeah.
They wouldn't be contributing.
Okay. I think I
I'm
understand.
going to hand the mic to Vina.
Okay, so those retirees, when we hire them at a district which offers alternate retirement plan, like PARS, so normally a part-time employees who might be contributing to PARS instead of Social Security because they are not a member of PERS. So same rules will apply to retirees then, right? They can pay into PARS as well in lieu of Social Security.
So the 218 agreement comes first. So if the position that they're in is covered by the 218 agreement, you have to withhold Social Security for them.
So if a retiree is coming into a part-time position, couple of hours, and the district has 218 agreement,
They have to pay.
they have to pay.
And
So
mandatory Medicare, yes.
okay, so they will never pay into PARS then, right?
They could in addition to, but they have
Not
to pay
addition,
Social
because it's
Security,
in lieu
Medicare.
of. The
Not
PARS
in lieu of,
is
no. They could, in
lieu.
addition to, if you
In
want to
addition.
offer that to
Okay,
them,
but
right?
not in
they
lieu
have to-
of.
Correct.
Okay. And I also wanted to do other things. Are you going to be sending a memo to us with all this so that
Yes.
we can?
So so we're going to be working on a circular letter, but the thing that I have to call out is our communications apply to all governmental employees. Right now, this is solely focused just on our school population. So we're trying to work to develop some more comprehensive guidance because we have public agencies, we have state employers that we need to address as well. So when we have that all together, we can issue a formal circular letter. For right now, we're providing this guidance to you because, I mean, the issue was raised from the school community, so we focused on the school piece first. But we will be issuing this in a circular letter as well.
But it could be long time.
I wouldn't say a long time. We can see, I don't know, we have some touch point meetings to see where we are with the state and public agency piece. But something we might consider is issuing it out to schools first and doing a schools only letter and then following up later for our other employers. But we'll just see what the timing of it is. But for now, you have the information.
Okay, and my last question is about that invoicing the districts for Section 218 agreement.
So are you talking about the program funding? So
Yeah.
I'm going to have you hold your question because I'm going to talk about that next.
Thank
So
you.
I think there were still some, sorry, I
Hi,
lost
Vicki
track of the
Lewitt,
mic.
Kern County Superintendent of Schools.
Hi.
So all 218 agreements are not the same? Because what I'm thinking, I'm at the county office and we don't have a 218 agreement.
Correct, okay.
But my districts do.
Right.
In addition, some of my districts, for positions that are not full-time or substitutes, they don't pay into Social Security. They pay into SIS-defined benefit up until they reach qualification to become a PERS member.
Okay, so there could be differences between 218 agreements at the county office level, but for all classified school employees in the state of California, they're covered by the 218 agreement.
So all
they-
positions should be paying into Social Security rather than a
Under the
SIS-defined.
218 agreement, yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Hi.
I can't keep track of the mic. They need like a flag on them.
Hi, Juanita Lopez, Sacramento County Office of Education. So if our districts have a 218 agreement and they have somebody and a teacher who elected CalPERS as their retirement system, since the position is not covered, does not pay into Social Security as a teacher, then they should not be charging them Social Security when they report to CalPERS?
So that is an issue that we have not fully, I'll say fully baked yet with Social Security and IRS, but we do have that on our list. So again, because it's the position that's covered, if they're in a teaching position, it's not covered by the 218 agreement. So we do recognize that there could be some issues with the PERS election heading in either direction, right? But we haven't really tackled that issue fully. But we do know it's a concern. We've started to have some conversations, but we're just not to the point where we're ready to provide that guidance, I'll say. And we also need to partner with CalSTRS before we get there, because there's 2 agencies that would be impacted. But we will get there.
Okay, I have a question from Mike at the Riverside County Office of Education. He asks, I want to clarify where the confusion lies with school employers. I agree the Section 218 agreement covers positions, not employees. However, employers are being told when someone works in that position, they are subject to Social Security. What we have are retirees and substitutes that are hired in sub-positions, not regular positions. They fill in for a day as a sub while the regular employee is absent in that position when that position is vacant. Retirees cannot work in regular positions because they would be subject to reinstatement. So the way this is being explained to employers is causing confusion. Can you speak
Okay.
on that?
So, Paul, feel free to jump in, but when it comes to when we talk about positions, we're also looking at the job duties that the person is performing. So whatever, depending on what work that they're doing at the district, if they're doing work like a position that would be otherwise be covered, they should be covered as well. But maybe Paul can chime in on that.
I think that's accurate. I mean, the issue. Hello?
We hear you.
Okay. The issue with rehired annuitants can be tricky because you really have to look to the position that they're working in, and so it's very fact-specific.
Right.
So making a one-size-fits-all decision on that is not possible.
Right. So Vina's asking for some examples of where they wouldn't pay in. So, okay, we can work on that, yeah. We can add it to this before we issue it out.
Okay, we have another question. My question is, community college offering Social Security as an option in lieu of STRS. A STRS retiree returns to teach as adjunct. Will they be subject to Social Security?
So I think we'd probably need to take that question offline and do a little bit of research. So we'll have the CAT group email that over to our team so we can respond. I didn't catch who the question was from, but we can respond out to the group on that.
Okay. And I don't know if this is the same. Since you are still working on getting clarification on certificated employees in PERS, what do we do with employees that are currently working? Historically, they have elected CalPERS. We have a Section 218. We have them both in Social Security and CalPERS.
So we don't have guidance on that right now, but as soon as we do, we would be communicating out. I don't think we would recommend changing anything right now until we have the guidance. So I think I gave the similar advice when we started talking about this. Wait until we have Social Security, IRS, and our team on board before we move forward with making any changes or corrections. The laptop doesn't like me today. So I did want to, because we do have Cheryl on the line from the IRS, I did want to talk a little bit about corrections or see if you had any questions for her regarding how to make corrections if those are required. So when the slide deck comes out, you'll be able to click into some of these links. So Social Security has provided their contact information as far as how to correct the wage records, W-2s, W-2Cs for employees. There's an online tutorial that they've provided, as well as some filing instructions, and they also have a web page that outlines the employer reconciliation process. And then they've also provided an 800 number and an email address, so if you have questions for them about correcting the wage records for any of your employees, you can reach out to them. And then IRS has also provided some similar resources, so there's some phone numbers there. There's also a video that they provided on how to complete a 941X if you do need to correct your tax forms. On here it notes that corrections for the IRS corrections need to be made for all open tax years, which would be back to 2016. And then they've also provided a link to their webpage for local and state governments. Does anyone have any questions regarding corrections from IRS or Social Security? Okay, so I think Vina has questions.
There is statute of limitations both from IRS as well as Social Security. We can only go back, whatever, 3 years.
So that's
whatever.
IRS?
Yes.
Not Social Security?
When we are correcting Social Security as well, isn't it?
No. So for
Okay.
IRS, it's 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days. So that's why we go back to the 2016 year,
Right.
the open tax years. But for Social Security, when it comes to correcting an employee's wage records, it goes back for as long as the employee has worked there.
Okay.
Yes.
So whereas PERS has no statute of limitation for corrections, like sometime we might receive corrections going back 10 years, reversing information. So I wanted to know, let's say PERS correction goes back 10 years. For IRS, it will be 3 years, 3 months. And for Social Security, it will be the same.
So in this case, though, I don't think we would have PERS would have a statute of limitations for going back. We've had some cases come up in the past where we've had employers that have the same thing. For whatever they correct with Social Security, they correct the same records with us for the same time frame, because the systems need to be in sync.
In sync.
Right? And if someone retires, we would want the system to reflect that they were coordinated with Social Security for their entire time frame, not just maybe the last 10 years, because that will impact the calculation of their retirement benefit.
Okay, thank you.
Sheila?
Sheila Walker, Tama County Department of Ed. At this point in time, do we have anything here that we need to make a correction for? Because you've just told us the retirees are supposed to be paying. Because we just found out about this, can the correction start from here forward?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you need to go back 3 years. That's what the guidance is. We have to go back to open tax years
Right.
to pay the contributions going back to 2016. And then the W-2s, Social Security Administration will take them back as far back as 1978. By the minimum, they need to be, the corrections need to be done back to 2016.
Right. There's no, the IRS doesn't have, and maybe Cheryl can chime in on why it can't be prospective only.
Yeah. Well, we need to make sure that everything with an open statute is correct. And there is the option, I'm going to throw this out there, you can correct years that have a closed statute. We do offer voluntary closing agreements. So, for example, if you find you have a couple of individuals where you need to go in and correct their Social Security withholdings, and you would like to come into a voluntary agreement with us just to go ahead and correct, let's say it's 5 years. We do have someone in office who is available to help you out with those voluntary agreements, just so everything is in sync, all the records are correct. We do have that service. But as far as anything with an open statute, those need to be corrected, because at any time, if an auditor is presented with your case, and it won't come through me through this meeting at all, it's all a random selection that's computerized. But if one of the auditors has your case and there's an open statute and they find the error, they're going to come out and correct it. So we do want anything with an open statute to be corrected.
Are there other questions before we Sheila had another question?
This is monumental, because people are no longer around. We have no way to get any money. We don't have any money to pay their part of the Social Security. Now we're going to have to tell our retirees from this point forward, you're going to be paying Social Security. This doesn't work in our environment to go backwards.
Yeah, I don't know that I can really speak to the IRS requirements when it comes to correcting these situations. You know, I mean, I understand the workload and the impact that this is going to have to you. And I mean, we can support you in whatever way we can going forward, as far as resources and connecting you with the right people to help you resolve these issues. But you know, the legal or the law that IRS requires these corrections is theirs. Yeah.
You have to help us, because we did everything based on PERS interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And we have almost, I don't know, 250, 300 retirees.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sheila was saying, some are gone, some are new. And PERS hasn't even issued a memo yet.
We will, and
Yeah,
we'll
what
work
I'm
on a
saying is
memo.
it has to be going forward. We cannot go back.
So we will issue a memo, but it's not a PERS decision to make as far as when the corrections are required. So I agree, we will help you as best as we can, but it's IRS and Social Security that put forward the requirements for these corrections. But you know, we will help you and support you in whatever way we can. I'll just be a standing agenda item on the SEAC if you'd like. And then I have our contact information at the end of the presentation as well. I mean, we will do our best to support all of you to try and make the corrections. Oh, hi.
Hi, I'm Lori from Santa Clara County Office of Education.
Lori.
And this is just in addition to the IRS and Social Security statutes. Is there one for Medicare, or does Medicare also follow Social Security?
So Medicare has been mandatory since April 1st of 1986, so it would be the same. And you'd correct going back. Okay.
Hi, Anna Lambert from Riverside County. I just wanted to comment that I agree with Vina and Sheila trying to fix old records. But at this point, I don't even know how to go forward and try to make this correction. We don't have guidance on what to do. When the question was asked about part-time positions, we didn't get any guidance. So how do we move forward to make these corrections if we don't have, like Vina said, a circular? We don't know what, and we don't even know
So there
which
will be
positions.
for retired annuitants. I don't know that we have the guidance finalized for do we have the guidance finalized for part-time positions? So, we're doing our best to try and work with our contacts at Social Security within their timeframes and when they're available to meet with us and respond to us. We've stressed with them that these are important issues for the schools, and we've tried to make as much progress as we can. Unfortunately, we're at a point where we're able to, provide the guidance on retired annuitants, and we'll get that circular out to you. But I think that there's still some work to be done with them, just being mindful of the fact that we are just liaisons, so we need both Social Security and IRS to give us the guidance to provide out to you. So we'll continue to work with them as best as we can to get that and issue it out in a circular letter. But unfortunately, we're not just able to give them all our questions and get all of the answers back. So we're trying to manage that and share the information out as we have it.
A lot of the school districts and county offices in the room, I'm sure, have what are called the approved alternative retirement systems, which we use for a lot of our sub and temp employees that have not qualified for PERS or STRS.
Right.
And it's kind of in lieu of Social Security. So is Paul able to talk about an approved alternative retirement? What does that mean? Because that's kind of now playing in. Does that change for temps that come in that are not PERS members, aren't retirees? They're in positions that are under the 218 agreement, but they have been paying into an alternative retirement in lieu of Social Security. Is that still okay?
Yeah, I'll let Paul answer that question.
In each of these situations, we have to look at the 218 agreement and see what it says. But in terms of an alternate retirement system, first we look at the 218 agreement. The alternate retirement system, I believe, is going to come into play when a mandatory Social Security coverage would kick in. So if you're under any retirement system and that gets you out, or if you're under an approved retirement system, it's going to get you out of the mandatory coverage, but it's not necessarily going to remove the position from a voluntary if there's a 218 agreement in place. So I can't really give a blanket advice on that, but we'd have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. It depends on whether there's a 218 agreement in place and what the 218 agreement says.
Right. If you can pass it back. Oh. Hi.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
My first question, I had two, kind of piggybacked on your question, because we have an alt retirement that we offer at our county office and several of my districts. And Veronica had worked, my county office and all of my districts are covered under a 218 agreement. So what I was hearing was, although my alt retirement does not pay into Social Security, it now should be paying into Social Security as well as the 218 agreement amount for the retirement? I'm not 218, excuse me, my alt retirement and Social Security.
I'll let Paul answer your question.
Once again, we'd have to look at the 218 agreement. I mean, these are really fact specific, so I can't really give an answer on that without looking at the agreement and looking at the specifics of the situation.
Okay, I hear you saying we need to look at it. Who needs to look at it? Because we need to get this resolved. Are we sending it to Veronica?
Yeah, so, and
Okay.
we would address it with Social Security, put it on our list of questions for them, and just work to get a response from them for you.
And then my other question, I just want to clarify, because I keep hearing, we haven't finished our mandate on it. So for retirees, that if a 218 agreement covers a position, they come back and classified, they all should be paying into Social Security
Yes.
immediately.
Yes.
can you provide that in writing? 'Cause-
Yeah, that'll be in our circular letter, absolutely.
And do you
And
kind of
send
have a
that to-
time frame for that circular letter? Because we
Um,
just
we-
started the new fiscal year, and what I'm hearing is we're going to have to start that, but we're going to also have to go back and collect, and we only have so much time to, to do all these things. So do you kind of have a timeline of this?
If we were to issue a circular letter, I would say we'd probably get it out within the next 30 days.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we can address the rest of the questions via the email box. If you
Okay,
wanna
we need
start
to
with-
move on.
Move on
Okay.
to the roundtable.
Can I just have one question real quick?
Sure. Oh, sure.
Hi, Renee from Napa. So I'm hearing that there's a difference in language between voluntary and mandated.
There is.
So earlier she said that retirees were exempt from mandated coverage, is that correct?
Mandatory coverage,
Mandatory
right,
coverage?
yeah.
So to me, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but voluntary implies that you have a choice.
So voluntary does imply you have a choice in that you had the employer had a choice to enter into the 218 agreement. So if the employer voluntarily entered into the 218 agreement, that's what we look at first, is that they volunteered to participate in Social Security and provide that coverage to their employees. Secondary to that is mandatory coverage. So that's why we always look to the voluntary Section 218 coverage first, and then to mandatory.
If retirees are exempt from mandatory coverage,
They could be, but they're not exempt from voluntary coverage, and that's what we look to first is the 218 agreement.
I guess we would need an example of both, so we would be clear on when it would apply and when it wouldn't.
Yeah, I wrote down some notes, so we can work on that. Okay, so in the interest of time, thank you, Bill, for keeping us on track. I wanted to talk a little bit about the SSSA program funding. So just a quick question though, how many folks are going to be attending the CSSPRA meeting tomorrow here at CalSTRS? So this topic will also be covered at that meeting. Just for those of you that are hanging around, in case we don't get to your questions, you'll have another opportunity to chat with us about it tomorrow. So for Social Security funding, we recently issued out a circular letter regarding some new fees that will be charged in order to support our SSSA program. Reason being, for years now, the program has been run off of some interest that was in an account from probably back in the 80s when the SSSA had the role of collecting the Social Security and Medicare withholdings from government employers and then remitting them over to the IRS. So we've actually been running the program on that interest for a very, very long time. Unfortunately, we're reaching the end of that account and the money's run out. So in order to support the program going forward, we got approval to charge some fees that will support our budget. So there are two types of fees. The first fee is a contracting fee. So this is a fee for a new 218 agreement. So I don't know if any of the COEs that don't have an agreement decide they want one, this would apply to you, or to amend an existing 218 agreement. So those are the two contracting, that's the contracting fee. And then there's an annual maintenance fee for anyone that has an existing Section 218 agreement. So the next slide lays out for you the breakdown of those fees. So it's based on the number of employees that are currently employed at the district or at the COE. And you guys can read through the numbers there. These invoices are going to be generated when your annual information request form comes out. So for most of the schools, that happens in March. So you won't see these for a while. For districts, they're all covered under modification 315, so they'll get their own invoice. We're still working with our IT folks on implementation to see if that invoice, how it will be distributed.